Hello everybody, here I am at Sally Bramble back again doing another conversation, and this time it's with somebody I've known for a really long time. It's with Grant Davidson. Hello Grant, how are you?
Well, thank you.
Fantastic, I'm so thrilled that you've agreed to do this. You've had such an extraordinary career, and I want to go all the way back and start. How did you get into being a designer to start with?
Interesting story. So originally I wanted to do architecture.
Okay.
I'm still a frustrated architect, so I was studying maths science. It was a bit of an anomaly, so I was doing maths, science, art and PE. so a bit of a mixed bag. But
that smacks of the kid that didn't really love school but wanted to do all the fun subjects like folio 1, 2, 3 and 4 or something.
Maths, science, maths 1 and 2 and chemistry, biology, all of that. So wanting to do architecture, I had to do maths, science, and did that right through. And I think in year 11, I went to the RMIT Open Day. I was really excited and like, wow, this is the future looks like. And I walked through the architecture section at RMIT and, seeing all the plans and like going, the models were like, oh, that's a bit exciting, but walked out feeling, a little bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, right.
And as I was walking past, I still remember it, there was this room at the side caught my attention. I'm like, what's that? And I walked in, it was a graphic design room. And I was just like, whoa, the posters and the books and I knew, I said, that's what I want to do. And so I walked away, went back to school and said to the careers counsellor, this is what I want to do. And they said, well, you're doing maths, science, you have to pick up art. So I had to pick up art as an extra subject.
Don't tell me you had a careers guidance counsellor that actually knew what they were talking about.
Very lucky. And the graphic design teacher was from industry and actually said, right, this is your path. Swinburne is, at the time, Swinburne is the place that you want to be. It's very competitive, hard to get into. What I'd recommend is you do what was called TOP, Tertiary Orientated Program.
Did you do it at Box Hill?
I did it at Box Hill. Met the greats, Stephen and John Bassani and all those guys from a long time back. So I did that, and that was absolutely focusing specifically on graphic design to develop a folio. So long story short, got into Swinburne. And
ironically, not RMIT that inspired you.
That's right, yes, true. Yeah. But so did the 4 years at Swinburne. Got into the degree stream, so in the third year we did that industry-based learning, which was absolutely invaluable. I was saying to someone the other day that the first 2 years you sort of learn the theory and the process, but then the year out just put it into context. And I worked at an advertising agency, so worked on, we won the Nike account and BMW, and so was exposed to some amazing stuff. And so that created my love for advertising.
Right. So
went back to uni, did the 4th year and focused my folio on advertising. And
how interesting! I didn't think that was how you were going to roll with this story.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So then when I graduated, and it was in 1990 or 91. So I remember the Great Recession.
Some of you weren't born then, but we'll be okay about that. Yeah.
So the Great Recession.
Yes, I remember.
So no one was getting jobs. I was incredibly lucky that I landed a junior art director job at Ogilvy and Mather, so global ad agency. It was absolutely fantastic. So we worked on big pictures, learned about strategy. They had an insights department, which I loved. So it really fueled my love for insights, strategy, and the creative process. So I was there for about a year, and then as what happened with most agencies, New York shut down because agencies were basically going broke and clients were disappearing.
I lived in London in those years. I was a door bitch in a nightclub because everybody still went out, and everyone would say, don't come back because all of this was going on then. Yeah. So what happened to you?
Yeah, so it was actually a blessing in disguise where I remember the MD came in and said, look, we've got to close the doors. New York said, that's enough, we can't fund it. And he said, look, but we've still got the lease in this building, until we get kicked out. And the clients, because I was the junior, I was working on smaller clients. Yeah. He said, look, just continue working on them, just do them as freelance if you want. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, started working with a few clients, got so busy I couldn't cope with the work, so then rang a mate from my 4th year class and said, look, can you help? So then we were working, then finally they said, look, we need to, release the building, you've got to go. So then we moved into an office in Hawthorn, and then all of a sudden we were super busy, we were picking up clients, and then someone said, well, you really need a business name, because we were going into this big pitch presentation and we're like, we've got 45 minutes to come up with a business name. So very creatively we came up with Davidson Tucker. So that ran for about 8 years.
And you met him at uni?
Uni, yeah, we're
fantastic.
closely together.
I talk about that a lot, about, because we're always talking about networking, aren't we? And building this network. But your network starts at uni, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was a great, such a good team. It was good fun.
Fantastic. And what skills did he have that you didn't have, or did you both have the same skills? I'm interested often in talking about partnerships, you know, how they work and how they don't work.
Yeah.
So what was it that made you guys work?
Definitely. So we're both designers. So that was the area that we had in common. But I guess where it worked, and it worked for eight years extremely well. I mean, we built the business up. We had about 20 staff at one stage when we were in our early 20s. Where it worked well is we naturally had sort of areas of expertise. So Chris had so over and above just doing the work of design, in terms of running a business, which is a whole thing they don't teach you at uni, you have to learn the hard way. Then what Chris did, so he sort of fell into just looking after all the IT, and that's a whole area when we started with the Mac generation and all of that. Yeah. And strangely, maybe it was my math science background, so strangely I started looking after finance and the kind of business, sort of running a business and business strategy.
And new business as well?
And new business, yes. Yeah. So I always loved doing that. So between us, it just worked really well. And I think also just personality types, we just got on and focused, and we loved the work that we did. And Chris is incredibly talented designer. So we hopefully said the same about me. We respected each other's work.
I'll be bringing you, Chris, to see what you think.
It worked really well.
Yeah. We
built the business to a really good standard, yeah.
Right, and then what happened? So
then, strangely, we a big believer in business coaches. So there's a point where, we're trained, but I guess elite trained on how to be designers, but not on how to run a business at all. And I figured as the business got to a certain stage, I remember sitting at the boardroom table with all of these staff going, I've never been trained on how to manage staff. I've never been trained on how to run a business, on cash flow, on There's this whole world that if I wanted to, and I had aspirations to take the business as big as it could be, I thought I need to learn a lot. So I picked up a business coach who was part of the author of the E-Myth, Michael Gerber. So it was big. And so I went through this coaching program, and it was all about...
Yeah, I think I remember that name, actually.
Yeah, it was best-selling author. And so set the plan of building this enormous business. And I think at that time, Chris was sort of like, well, I love doing the work, but maybe didn't have the aspiration. And, with the growth comes obviously it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
So I think there was just an amicable stage to go, well, look, and I wanted to move into taking the best bits of advertising that I learned in terms of the insight strategy into creating a branding agency, rather than, at the time, design industry was about if it looks nice, it is nice. So I wanted to head down that path, and I think we said, look, it's been 8 great years. Chris wanted to travel as well, so I said, look, this is a good time. The lease in the building was up. Let's just go our separate ways. So we did that amicably, and that's when Davidson Branding began.
And it's interesting because I've never sort of thought of you really as an ad guy.
Yeah.
But that was your first sort of calling, I guess.
Yeah.
And did you take that into Davidson Branding?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
The big difference was taking the advertising model of consumer insights are a critical foundation.
Right, okay.
Then from that, what is the strategy? So, and then creative is the last bit that actually amplifies or makes that strategy easy to understand or more intuitive. So that's the model that we took, but instead of the output being advertising, the output was branding. Yep.
And I do remember being one of the first companies that I ever worked with or went to visit, where you had all of your different pods, and you put all of your staff into either the corporate area, the beverage area. I'm making these up, but I feel like I'm just saying something right here. Yeah. And the something or other area, and everybody worked on certain clients. Can you talk about why you decided to do that rather than have everybody working on everything?
Absolutely. So I was looking at competitive strategy because it is competitive, and how do we compete with the more established branding agencies? And so read it somewhere about the power of specialisation. So, if you've injured your knee and you have your GP, your general practitioner, and next to it is the knee specialist who's worked with elite AFL people, and the elite knee specialist is a little bit more expensive. Personally, I'd choose the knee specialist hands down. So, well, hang on, our industry is a generalist. We love working because designers love variety. And I thought, well, if we set up a model where there's a division that focuses specifically on a niche and knows that niche inside out, back to front, employs people who are specialists, learns it, loves it, focuses on that, then that's going to be our competitive advantage. So I looked at the models and we'd sort of been working on a broad base of clients across food and bev, corporate and retail. And so I thought it makes sense, let's set up a specialist retail division, a specialist corporate and a specialist FMCG.
Yeah, and it worked really well, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Before I've been through 4 economic downturns. Before one of them, each of the business units had like 10 or 11 people.
Yeah.
And was absolutely humming, so it's the heyday.
Yeah, it was really, it's interesting to see you as I don't know if that's going to sound terrible, but like a thinking man's designer. Like I love the fact that you've done all this research and you've sort of looked at if it works like that, like the knee analogy, and that just makes so much good sense. But it's wonderful that you've always had time to work on your business rather than just working in the business, which is something that I talk about all the time.
Critical.
And I think that's where a lot of people fail. There's a lot of really talented creatives out there that perhaps don't have the success that they should because they're just busy working but not thinking about it. And I know I have sat around the table with people that support my business and we sit and talk about Sally Brownbill like I'm in a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, right.
And I'm quite comfortable with that now, but at the beginning I'd be going, oh my God, that's weird. But it's like, what is it that you're doing? And I do that as well. I mean, I haven't become a Brownbill branding or anything, but it's important to do that. But it also looks to me like you really enjoy that part of it as well.
I love it, yeah. And that was a big inflection point. Part of that business coach at the very beginning was work on the business, spend time on the business, otherwise you've got an expensive hobby. I also had an absolute insatiable thirst for knowledge, so I just read as many business books as I could, learning about everything. I did God knows how many courses, from things like neuro-linguistic programming to behavioural profiling through, flew off to Harvard 3 times and did competitive strategy, business strategy and digital strategy, and just couldn't get enough of learning.
And I love this, and I love it because it's so important, because so many people that'll be listening to this, young designers and art directors and creatives coming through the industry, you never stop learning, do you?
No,
and the minute that you think, oh, I know it all, it's probably time to become a florist or something.
So.
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
That's my dream, to become a florist one day. It will never happen. But so at that point, you had many staff, right?
Yeah.
Would you have been 25 or so? Or
I think we got up to about 25 plus contractors. Yeah.
Gee, that was a good guess.
Yeah.
And you moved to Richmond, and then that was all going gangbusters. And then was it around COVID time that things started to change a little bit for like the rest of the world?
Yeah, look, the industry's been in flux. I think one big shift was a generation change, which changed, the ways of doing business and from client side as well. So the world started to change. Obviously, digital changed things dramatically. So the world and what we did and how we did it.
In a good way?
Everything's in a good way if you look at it that way.
Yep, great. Good answer.
Because, like, if you think of, I guess I'm in a generation where we were the first computer-trained designers at Swinburne.
Yes, right.
So remember when that first little Mac Plus arrived, and we learnt, and you'd have to save something, go away and have a coffee, and lunch, and afternoon tea, and then come back, and it would save that page.
Was it mind-blowing, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we were the first train. So I know a world before digital. Then we were analog, kind of print-based for best part of a decade and a half.
But don't
and then
you
digital.
think that taught you certain things that perhaps students these days miss out on? I know certainly in photography, working in darkrooms and working with negatives and prints and understanding light and screen printing and all that stuff really taught us about getting things right in the camera. And I would you say that was the same with design, because you had to sort of nut things out first before you put it in and go, okay, we can do this really easily?
Yeah.
Do you think it made you a different designer?
Probably. I mean, it was, at that time, that made a big difference, because you're absolutely right. Like, I've learned getting things right in camera, and so when I see AI generated stuff now, I can art direct and critique it, whereas I see a lot of content now and go, no one's art directed that, because you wouldn't do that. The composition's not right. So I think you're right, that skill of being taught by Parley at Swinburne around all the fundamentals of good photography helped with directing a different medium now, being AI generated content.
And have you ever had alongside your career, while we just stop that for a minute, have you ever had a side pursuit? Do you draw or do you paint or?
Good point. No, I've been so immersed, all-consuming in the business through
Right.
its various.
Okay.
I play sport. I've always played sport and do those things, but
Because I often find that designers have that side thing where they love to illustrate or paint or anything, but you really are the businessman of design, aren't you?
yeah, well, design was my painting, you know.
Yeah,
So because
and you loved
it's a
it, you
creative
breathed it.
outlet. Yeah, so I was involved in one of the things I loved is involved in creativity, you know, all day, every day, and sometimes, you know, till the wee hours. Actually, many all-nighters and wee hours of the morning, and I was one where always looking for inspiration. So, you know, Pinterest boards, and I take photos. I'd be walking down the street and go, oh, look at that sign. So, you know, design inspiration is everywhere, and I guess I was always thinking about it 24/7, and that was my side hustle and my main hustle.
Yeah, okay. And what was it that you looked in, or what do you look for in a young designer that's perhaps wanting to come and work with you?
Yeah, no, good
This
question.
is a good question. Write this down, everybody. And Ezra, who's over there. Okay.
It is critical. I was thinking one of the pillars of the success was the talented people. I mean, if it wasn't for talented people, I'd just be a single, you know, freelancer sitting in a room just doing design work. But again, I've had probably, I think it's hundreds. I was trying to work out how many. It must be like hundreds of staff over the years. And yeah, talent, absolute talent, and culture fit. So one thing we look for, and you know, it sounds terrible, but you come very quick at, you know, flick. You can see whether there's and it's hard to articulate, but there's the X factor. It's like, oh, there's a real great eye for design. There's a great flair. Because we talked about, we were a tier 1 branding agency, so we had to have tier 1 designers. You know, someone was really nice, but their folio wasn't the best, then, you know, sadly, not the place for that person. So we'd look for the flair, but equally as important would be culture fit. And, you know, again, hard to articulate, but somebody who you got a sense of can do, joy to work with, just a bunch of those factors, and you go, great folio, culture fit, fantastic. So, you know, when you apply those two filters, there's a very small pool, but those people who we worked with, we had some incredibly talented graduates who stayed on for up to 8-9 years.
Well, they did. That was the other thing I was going to say. There was not a very high turnover, was there?
No. Well, Mike, 21 years.
Yes.
Still technically, on board.
And Alan was there for a long time as well.
Yeah, he was 16 years. Barry, the finished artist, is probably getting around 12, 13.
There's still people called Barry around. Sorry, Barry.
That's my middle name.
Oh, is it? There you go. Sorry.
Sharing too much information.
Actually, my dad's middle name's Barrington, so...
even better. That's much more,
quite fancy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I talk about that a lot with, working with young people is... absolutely the folio is king, or the website, but it's so much more than that. If you have this wonderful folio and you're arrogant, or you're messy, or you're not organised, or all of those sorts of things, it's just not going to cut it, is it?
No.
So it's a little bit of everything. I have a really good example about those folios. When I went to go to RMIT and to study photography, I remember sitting in a room with all the people that were waiting to be interviewed, and everyone was showing their folios, and they were all fantastic, and I'm thinking, I should just leave now. But I actually got into the course, and I remember looking around and thinking, none of those people are here. And I often think about that because they were so confident, whereas I was hungry. I think I was a good kid, and I had a little bit of talent, and they saw that in me. And so when you're looking through those folios, it might not be a smash out folio, might it? But it might be, as you said, just how they see colour.
The flair. You can pick the flair,
Or typography, or just one little thing, or even in that one piece, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I think that's something that students, year in, year out, all over the place, all over the world, they try to second guess what somebody wants to see in their portfolio, and they might put 4 things in, and it's like, oh, you better to put 7.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And do you like to see in a folio the workings to get to where they are, or do you just want to see finished pieces?
Good question. I think
this is important because I talk about this a bit, and I've got a theory on it.
That's why I'm being careful about the answer, because I'm not interested in the workings, because the thinking is really important. But again, I don't want to send the message that all of a sudden all the folios have 15 pages of workings and only 3 finished pieces. I think maybe answer from my point of view is I want to see more finished pieces because I can tell what's gone into it, but with the person, the candidate being able to articulate how they got there. So if that requires a page that shows workings around the genesis of the idea, rather than just random workings, I think the key idea, the thinking behind that end piece will be really important to show that there's depth and there's substance.
Yeah. Because I think some of them get it wrong and they try to do that with all of them. I quite like the idea of perhaps selecting one piece that shows me their idea behind what it was they were doing, because so often the final piece can look good, but you go to the idea and you go, actually, that was your idea there, and then you kind of went off a little bit.
Oh yeah, a number of times we see that. Mike and I, when we're reviewing work, we go, wait, you missed it. It was right there.
It was right
That's
there.
Benefit of experience. So.
Yes, it is. And I think with students, they don't know what they don't know. So just putting your final pieces in sometimes can be, interesting. But I do think that working, but being able to, unlike myself now that's not articulating very well, being able to articulate.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
Articulate yourself well without rambling or without not saying enough, because everybody that looks at your folio does it differently. Like you might be completely silent when you're looking through it and they're shitting themselves, whereas I'm there going blah, 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 and asking them questions. So they've got to be aware and prepared for all sorts of folio viewings. Or you might say, I'm bringing in 5 creative directors to look, and all of a sudden you've got 6 people staring at you. Are you freaking out, Ezra? So to be prepared, and being a designer, my question to you is, many of them will just be working at computers, but do all of them get to client face? How do you select those sorts of people? And do you, in your career, do you like people to do that, or are you always doing the client facing?
No, I definitely encourage client-facing as early as much as possible, because I think one thing I learned is you pick up on so much more that ever appears in a brief through non-verbal. I mean, we're trained to pick up lots of information on non-verbal, tone of voice, expression. Even we all have filters that remember different parts of a conversation. So if I'm the only one in the meeting, I can communicate the content of the brief or the meeting, but I can't communicate the body language, the secondary kind of cues, and I may have filtered something out that was that little nugget that will create an amazing idea. So wherever possible, encourage as many of the design team to be in those conversations as possible. Also encourage the design team to present. There's 2 reasons for that. I learned a long time ago when I did start going, well, I'll present, and I'd be, the design team might leave at 7 p.m. and I'll be there till 5 a.m. redoing it, and then I'd get home, bleary-eyed before the presentation. My wife would say, "Why did you stay up all night?" I said, "Well, I've got to stand here and present it, and therefore if I don't in my heart feel that this is the best we can do, I can't present it." And so then that's why I stayed up all night, just doing other ideas or refining it. And then it dawned on me, it's like, wait, I was motivated beyond. I could have clocked off at 7 as well and had dinner, and but I stayed because I had to stand in front of the client. I thought, so if the design team have to, there'll be a subconscious motivation to just make it the best they can be. So it's not just me saying, not good enough, keep pushing. So that was sort of a strategy. And I think the designers enjoyed it as well.
I think you would have made a really good barrister. I love crime shows. I love courtroom dramas. That's my thing, right? And, you think about that, and when they're picking their jewellery, it's just like, look at that woman over there, she's so not interested, or look at him, and, I'd love to be one of those people. Anyway, that's a side note. Maybe florist is not what I should be, no. Barrister. Okay, so that's fantastic. And before we move further on, I just want to talk about when you and I first met. We were just talking about that, and it was a long time ago, and it was with the MADC.
Yep, Melbourne Art Directors Club.
The Melbourne Art Directors Club. And so can you talk to me a little bit about the importance that you feel it is to sit on boards or have extracurricular activity within your organisation? So boards and things that you've sat on, or things that you've judged. Why is that important?
I've always been involved in industry. I think if that's industry you're in, you want to be involved in making it the best it can be, because that's helps everybody. I've always loved judging awards because I get inspired by seeing amazing work, and I guess with award shows you see, with AGDA and MADC, you see the best of the best, and it's just, for me, it kind of fills my cup with motivation and inspiration. So I've been involved with that. MADC, again, just being part of, that was when I was in advertising, so it was being part of that industry and helping shape it and form it, and I enjoyed been involved in Swinburne for the last 36 years. We've had IBL students every year for the best part of the 3.5 decades, and that's part of wanting to give back to the industry as well. So I got a break, and that helped my career. So there's a key part of that.
It's what I do. I've been running it for 10 years with my students. I keep looking there because Ezra's there. Ezra, pop your head in, because I keep, just quickly, so everyone knows that I'm not talking to a phantom. This is Ezra, who's a current Swinburne Honours student. Okay, enough, off camera. But one of the sad things, if we can just tap on that at the moment, there's not a lot of places for students to do that anymore. Industry's become very tight, and it's very hard to work, and it's been very hard for students to find placements. And we've found that, because I, like you, am an industry fellow at Swinburne and work with the students to get these placements. So we've got to think about new ways to do it. So we're doing 2 days a week, which works out really well for me. I don't really want somebody 5 days a week, and I think if we can perhaps start educating industry out there to say, look, for 2 days a week, like Ezra and all the students before them have brought so much into my business. Oh yeah. Because the older I get, the younger they get, and they go, oh, well, do you know about Substack? No, what's that? I've just learned about TikTok, Yeah, and their ideas are fresh, or, as I get older, my ideas are fabulous. But it's like, yeah, but you've done that before, why don't we do it again? Oh, right, okay. So did you find that getting, all these new staff coming in and throwing ideas around? Did you have...
always. I learn, and I used to love, we had a lot of freelancers over the years, and I used to always, often sit next to them, and you'd kind of watch and go, hey, what did you do then? You're always learning new things. So you always, everyone brings some form of inspiration, some new ideas. So, and
working with the students is great, because you get to, like you said, you get inspired, but also sitting on different course advisory boards, or AGDA or MADC, you get to work with new people that you wouldn't normally work with, don't you? Like you get to meet people like me,
like you. That's where we met.
And we all have something to offer. And then the collaboration, has that been a big part of your business career, collaboration?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And interestingly enough, and it wasn't the intention, but MADC, the people that I met, formed new relationships and kind of business bonds that created opportunities down the track. So people I'm still in contact with.
Yeah, me too. That was a really good gang. Like Craig Ford was my partner at that time. We were working with the students, and Craig and I still, have done work together in recent years, and he's one of my advisors for my business. And
there we go. Yeah.
And I met him all the way back then. So, and again, it just was like minds, people that you really entrusted with, that you could tell them your deepest, darkest fears or secrets.
Yeah, great.
Because running a business is fucking hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just said fuck. It's very hard, isn't it?
It is. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you need to be. One of the traits you need is resilience, I think, because it is. There's great times, and if there weren't great times, you wouldn't do it. But there's also, really tough times and challenges. So.
Yeah, I've got a question, but in a minute. But what I was going to say was, for me, one of the key things for running my own business for as long as I have has being a very good time manager.
Oh yeah.
Without time management, I think that's where people come unstuck. And I'm not just talking about work time management. It's like, you do go home at 7 o'clock at night, and you do have a weekend off. And for me now, in my mature years, Thursdays for 2 hours at lunchtime, I do pottery.
Nice.
Every week. I just go down there and make all this gorgeous stuff. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that I'm working less. I've just managed myself really well. And I talk to freelancers about that as well. So I'd like to touch on a question. What do you think makes the difference between a designer that wants to work for somebody else for their whole career, or run their own business?
Oh, big question.
Yeah, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that one.
I think there are different kind of types of people, behavioural types that lend themselves to one versus the other. So, I think there's, you love doing design and you want to do as much of that and get as good as that as possible. Then you work for somebody, because when you run a business, that part of your craft and the thing that you love diminishes dramatically. So unless you're excited by the other stuff, you will get very tired, cynical, and get over it very quickly. So for me, I guess I was just thinking back to a child, I was always very entrepreneurial. So even, 4 years of uni, I had a student loan and
a lemonade
was
stand
absolutely, broke. So I thought, I need money. I've got no money whatsoever. And then I thought, all the ads that I did in my folio, I'm going to try and sell them to the business. So I did a Davenport underwear campaign. And so I contacted, it's just a 21-year-old, contacted the CEO of Davenport, said, look, can I show you? And I showed him, and I think it was like $500 or something he gave me for the ideas, and then ended up being a client.
Wow.
And there was a Repco poster, and they gave me
You're listening to
a grand.
this.
So I just did that. I just thought, I need money. How can I do it? I've got a folio. Let me try and sell it. So I guess I was always kind of entrepreneurial. So, when we started up the business, I was more inclined, how can I grow it? How can I grow it? New clients and this and this. And that really drove me. So what that meant is, you do reach a point where you go, well, I can't, because I still, we started off by Chris and I were designing, 12 hours a day. And then you go, well, but I've also got to do all this other stuff. So progressively, you have to manage your time and work out where the priorities are. So I think that there was a turning point for me where I said, well, am I a designer, or am I a owner of a successful design business? And I worked out, no, I want to be the owner of a successful design business, so therefore I've got to change my priorities, my process, my time.
Your learning and neither is right nor wrong.
No,
and I sort of look at it as, some people, you hit the nail on the head when you said you either you fit into that or you don't. And I think I hear a lot of people coming and going, oh, I'm going to become a freelancer. It's like, it's not as easy as that. You've got to actually have that right mentality to understand the busy time, the quiet times, which is the ebbs and flows. You are called in at a time of crisis. You really need to be super organised. You need to understand tax and all of those sorts of things. And that's not for everybody. Yeah. And sometimes just working for a salary, but being part of a really dynamic team. All that is sorted
out. You don't have to worry about it.
And how many times in my life have I gone, shit, I'd love a full-time job, and then I go, my husband goes, really? And I went, no, shit. But yeah, and I think you've got to listen to that. But do you think it's important as a young designer or young art director to work for somebody first before you go out on your own, or not?
Look, I think it's circumstantial as well.
Okay.
But ideal world, yes, because you learn from others. So rather than making the mistakes and learning the hard way and the expensive way, you pick up how things are run, you learn, you see. And I reckon that freelancing is fantastic for a short period of time because you get into multiple businesses. So rather than just landing in one business, and we had a graduate that stayed with us for 8 years, and whilst he was, one of our best designers and amazing, and ticked every single box, there was a point where if I take my business owner hat off and say, well, as a kind of mentor, to say, well, you need to work in other places because you need to see what else is out there and how other people do things. So I think you need to see who does what, how they do it. You can learn what you like, what type of work, what culture, and those sorts of lessons will help you form the business that you want. Yeah,
and let's get back to your business. So Davidson Branding went along, and then in recent times,
yes.
What was your decision with the business?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, and again, 36 years I'd run the business, and always striving. I mean, part of the entrepreneurial.
God, doesn't that sound a long time? 36 years.
It's crazy. It goes fast.
Like that,
yeah,
right?
It's insane.
I know.
So part of entrepreneurial is never being satisfied with that success. There's always better, and what's the best and the biggest that I can get the business to. And I thought, don't know if I've got another 35 years in organic growth. So I thought, well, maybe there's a kind of M&A process of merging with another business, or
M&A. What's that?
Merger and acquisition.
Sorry.
So to in an instant become and scale more dramatically, become something much bigger, more people, more opportunity. So I looked down that path, and then.
And how did you look down that path? Do you get an advocate to come in and find other agencies for you, or do you just go through your Teledex and go, I'm going to ring them?
Well, I had an advisor, and his advice was, there was a very specific business. There was a very specific business that it would work. So it needs to be at the same or higher standard of work. It has to be similar or much larger size, and needs to be a business that for clients they go, wow, this is aspirational. The staff would say, wow, this is a step up. This is aspirational. So that at that point that narrowed down to a very small number of businesses. And so the M&A advisor said, look, you've been in the industry long enough. You can reach out to the CEO and just grab a coffee. So there was one business that was kind of our nemesis. We always came up against them with pictures, and I always respected and admired their work and had heard good things. A couple of our staff had gone there and vice versa. So I caught up with the CEO over a coffee, and in the space of a very short period of time realised, wow, culture, fit, values, beliefs, even kind of approach were almost identical.
So the nemesis became the ultimate gift and friend.
It was, yes, definitely.
Wow, I love that.
The other thing that was in that meeting just was serendipitous is the fact that we had a lot of strength in retail and effectively consumer brands, so FMCG and retail. And Principals, the company we were talking about, enormous business but very corporate, and wanted to move into FMCG, but it's really hard to crack into. I mean, we have decades of it. And so it was like, wow, you can effectively pick up our business and we can be the specialist consumer brand. So in an instant, Principals has a whole new channel to market, whole new area of expertise, and our business fills that space and can act sort of semi-autonomously, which you hear about a lot of mergers and acquisition that don't work because you have redundancies and all sorts of factors. There was zero redundancies. Everybody from Davidson Branding came across, it worked. The transition worked beautifully.
How fantastic! Yeah. And did it become Davidson Principals or?
No, it became Principals.
Right, and what's happening now?
So
hot off the press.
Last week was 1 year to the day of the acquisition.
Gosh, that went fast, didn't it? I feel like it was January this year. Obviously, it was last year. Yeah.
Crazy. The agreement was my role was to focus on the transition, make sure staff were all happily embedded, clients were happily embedded, systems, processes. So what we found is we sort of got to the end of the year and went, wow, it's been really successful. It's like everyone feels like they've been there forever. And look, Principals has got fantastic culture, support staff around culture and people, and it's a phenomenal business to work for. I think they've won Employer Brand of the Year or something a couple of times. So amazing business, and it's like, well, my job here is done. And so it was time to look at focusing on those things that I really, really enjoy. I've loved over the years mentoring, coaching, public speaking, and so the intent is to focus just on those rather than running a business.
We're going to go on a public speaking tour, you and I.
We're going to do it?
That's what
Absolutely,
I'm doing.
Yeah.
I actually put some public speaking things onto my LinkedIn, and now I just get all these interests from, it's
great, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow, so that's exciting. So now you're out, you're footloose and fancy free.
I am, yes.
And you're Grant Davidson Consulting for the moment, until we can think of another name.
Yeah, I'm taking a couple of months just to punctuate the 36 years, so I haven't developed
I'm so thrilled
what
that
the
you've
consulting
given us,
name, if there is one.
Yeah, maybe I'll think one for you. I love thinking up names. I'm so thrilled that you've given us your time today.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
And so, moving forward, after you've had your time out, and you're not going to go back into 12-hour days and 5 days
Definitely
a week,
not done that.
Jackie, is that your wife?
Yes.
She'd be happy about that?
Very happy, yeah.
Yeah, and the kids would be happy about that?
Very happy, yeah.
And that's important. You work really hard to be able to do that now, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So with the consulting, will you be going into companies or to design studios, or you haven't worked it out yet?
No, just companies, not design studios, yeah, just companies. And look, over the years, I've made some amazing contacts and people that I keep in touch with and so, yeah, often they'll call up and say, look, one thing I really love doing is facilitating workshops. For some reason, I guess, all of the knowledge and experience
I can. Got all this gorgeous energy, and people would love that.
So I love it. I love getting a room of people and just helping listen and process the information and give direction. So that's one thing.
And I think that's what's lacking, because what we've seen in industry over our lifetime is so many places have taken their creative in-house, right? But when they go in-house, they don't really have the skills that you do when you go to a specialist studio, like to the knee surgeon.
Yeah.
So to have somebody to come in and help sort all of that out. Now I'm thinking of a little bit of a business thing with us. So you go in there and sort of, now you need to phone Sally Brownbill because you need an account service person, a designer, and a this, and then, okay, so we'll talk about that afterwards. Well, Grant, thank you so much for today.
Absolute pleasure, yeah.
It's been fantastic to hear your entire story. Some of it I knew and some of it I didn't. Can't believe I didn't know about the advertising bit, but anyway, that's just me. Can't wait to see what happens next. And if anybody would like to know more about you, do you still have a website or an Instagram page?
LinkedIn's probably the best.
LinkedIn.
Just message me directly on
So
LinkedIn.
it's just Grant Barry Davidson?
Just Grant Davidson, LinkedIn,
Grant Davidson, LinkedIn. Okay, or you can contact me if you're looking for any mentorships or you're a business out there, you know, this is the guy. Thank you so much, Grant. I really appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.